It's good to see you in the house of the Lord, in the Bible class, in the study of His Word. The Word is a living Word. As you touch it, you come alive. The mystery of the Word. Who can understand it? That you read it and you come alive. The human mind does not comprehend that. You read a newspaper and you go dead. And you read the Word of the Lord and you come alive. Isn't it beautiful to come alive in God? God, through His prophets, has spoken to mankind. Daniel is one of the celebrated ones. As we are now living in the closing moments of this dispensation of grace, it is very necessary for us to understand the times in which we live. God's people should always understand the times in which they live. Of all the people in the world who should understand, God's people should understand better than anyone else. And so in order to understand, we must study. So we're studying the book of Daniel. We're just taking it chapter by chapter. We have arrived at chapter 2, and if you will open your Bible to the book of Daniel, chapter 2, we will talk about it verse by verse. In chapter 2, you have the image vision of world empires. That a king saw an image, and the image represented all the empires that was and was to come entirely. Daniel gives definite chronological settings in chapter 2 relating to all the empires that this earth would ever know, including the one that was existing at that time. This vision or dream occurred in the second year of Nebuchadnezzar. According to Daniel chapter 2 and verse 1, in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. Now, Nebuchadnezzar's father, Nabopolassar, he had died. They had ruled together, with the senior being the eminent one, and Nebuchadnezzar the junior partner. His father died, and he inherited the golden empire of Babylon. So now Nebuchadnezzar was the sole emperor in the entire Babylonian state that covered the entire world, as we'll be reading to you today. Egypt, who had dominated a large part of the world, including the Holy Land, had been defeated by the Babylonian armies. Babylonia was now supreme on the face of this earth. There were no standing armies to fight against her. Nebuchadnezzar was the greatest earthly sovereign. I would imagine that's quite a feeling, wouldn't you? To say that there's nobody but me. I am the strongest person living. That's what Hitler wanted to do and missed it. Well, Nebuchadnezzar didn't keep it very long either. With all this in mind, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed. And he dreamed a world of empires. I guess you dream according to what you are. He dreamed a world of empires. And God showed him the course of what we call the times of the Gentiles. By the times of the Gentiles, it means that period of time, beginning with Babylon and ending with the Antichrist, when outside the Jewish nation, there would be world rulers. That the Jewish nation would be an outsider to it. Called the word Gentiles means nation. So it's the time of the nations of the world. And we're living at the climax of that time at this very moment. The king dreamed. And it was a very exciting dream. Let's read it in verse 2. Then the king's command to call the Egyptians, Daniel 2 and 2. Now, I'd like first to take this verse 2 with a deep consideration. And let me say that from Adam until Noah, as far as we know, that there was no spiritism, magicians, witchcraft. As far as we know, there wasn't any. Their sins were sins of the flesh. They married, they gave in marriage, they ate, and they drank. But the great God in heaven remained the same. But after the flood, And they built the great Tower of Babel. They opened themselves up to receive another God other than the Creator God. Now, I challenge any one of you to read Romans chapter 1, the whole chapter. Not now, but that you will discover how pagan nations came into existence. You'll know exactly how they came, why they came, and what they are, you know. And when you go to visit them, and that's exactly what they are. But by the time we get to the Babylonian Empire, which was the first world empire, they already had the king's command to call the magicians, the astrologers. They'd already conceived to make the stars up there mean something. To look at the stars and say, yes, now you mean this and you mean that. Now only the devil could have helped them to do that. Because the stars are nothing but the working of the hands of God. What if I walked out in the parking lot and I said, now, here's a blue Cadillac, and here is a green Continental. Now that means that the girl with the green dress on and the boy with the blue suit, they're going to get married. Hey, hey, hey. You'd say, well, you've lost your marbles. Well, you've lost yours looking up there, trying to think there's something up there to guide you. They're as dead as dead. They don't know anything. The God that made them knows everything, and they know nothing. They had gotten together astrologers that made the movement of the stars mean something when it was a lie. They had gotten to themselves sorcerers who had delved into the underworld of the enemy, into demon worship. And they had what they call the Chaldeans. Almost all of the world witchcraft today was born in Babylon and has gone from empire to empire. In fact, all the evils of every empire in history is now upon us. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit. Well, they couldn't show the king his dream, so they came and stood before the king. Verse 3, the king said to them, I have dreamed a dream and my spirit is troubled. When a king gets trouble, everybody's got trouble. How many already knew that? Yeah, when that old boy gets trouble, we're all in trouble. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac, King, live forever. Tell thy servants a dream, and we will show the interpretation. Well, that's like going to a lot of people. You know, I often used to get kind of upset at doctors. You go in and they say, stick out your tongue. You want to say, you stick yours out, you know? And you come here to stick out my tongue. And by the time you keep feeding them information, of course they know something about you. You've told them everything anyway. And that's the same way with these people here, you know. They said, now you tell us a dream, we'll give you an interpretation. Well, anybody can do that if you tell it. They just listen and say, yeah, I know what that means. They don't know anything, but anyway. Verse 5 says, the king answered and said to the Chaldeans, they were the chief one of these prognosticators, the thing is gone from me. I mean, dream a dream and lost it to see your hand. It's awful, isn't it? And when a king does, it's worse. Now, if ye will not make known unto me the dream with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut in pieces. Hey, he was a lousy guy, wasn't he? Your houses shall be made a dunghill. But if ye show me the dream and the interpretation, ye shall receive gifts, rewards, and great honor. Isn't another man's head a terrible place for your happiness to be? It's awful. Therefore, show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. They answered and said, hey, let the king tell the servants a dream, and we will show you the interpretation. The king said, I knew of a certainty that ye would gain time, because ye see the thing is gone from me. In verse 9, but if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you. Brother, that was bad. Ye have prepared lying and corrupt words. Now, he already knew that. Why did he have them in his court? Well, when that Mrs. Dixon in Washington, D.C. misses about 90% of everything she ever said, why do people pay her money to go and listen to some more? It's wonderful, isn't it? Now, this king said, I know you have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak to me. He said he knew that. Till the time be changed. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretation there. He was kind of smart. He said, if you can tell me the dream and I know it's the right dream, then I know you know something. Otherwise, I don't know that you know anything. Look at verse 10. The Chaldeans, they were the top honchos. The Chaldeans, they answered before the king and said, now, wait a minute. There is not a man upon the earth. You see, the devil don't know what God's people can do. There is not a man on the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore, there is no king, lord, nor ruler that would ask such things of us, poor little meeky mousy magicians and astrologers and Chaldeans. When you start thinking the world's going to do a lot for you, you're going to miss everything in life. They can give you a little glitter and a little humbug, but that's about all they've got. He says nobody, no lord, no king, no ruler, and no magician can ever do anything. Verse 11, and this is real good. It says, it is a rare thing that the king requireth. There's none other that can show it before the king. That is, except the gods. And you see that they put that with a little g? They don't know the right one yet. They just know that somewhere up there might be one. Whose dwelling is not with flesh. That means there's nowhere around us. We don't have anything. We don't have any God. It says that's not around us. They only had the devil. It says he's not with us, not with the flesh. Verse 12. For this cause the king was really angry. And verse 12 says, and he was very furious. Now the anger of the king is a bad thing. And he commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. Now, that was bad as communism under Stalin. You're going to wipe out the whole outfit. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows, and he wasn't even present. He just happened to be a wise man. He wasn't even with the astrologers and the magicians and the Chaldeans. And then they stuck him in also. They sought Daniel to slay them. Daniel said, just a minute here. I answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard. Don't you like that, verse 14? He answered with counsel and wisdom. He said, just a minute, lay your sword down just for a second. Let me have a word with you, please. He says, I know it's sharp and all. Now, what's the problem? I haven't been in on this. What's the problem? He answered him with counsel and wisdom, which was gone forth to slay all the wise men of Babylon. And he answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree so hasty from the king? If you're going to kill me, don't be in a hurry about it. Just take a little time here, please, with it. And Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. See, he didn't even know a thing about it. And then in verse 16, then Daniel went in and desired the king that he would give him time, that he would show the king the interpretation. Now that's courage. Brother, that verse 16 is downright courage. Now you know, we need living today people like Daniel. How many believe that? See, Daniel had the gift of the word of God's wisdom, one of the 9 gifts of the Spirit. And it was functioning. He knew it could function. He was positive it could function. And he said, now wait a minute. I had my mind on so many other things in running the kingdom. I wasn't up on this. Just give me a moment here, please, and let me get my mind on it and let's see what God will do for you. Verse 17. Then Daniel went to his house, made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, and they would desire the mercies of the God of heaven concerning this secret, so that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Verse 19. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. He got it the same way the king did. How many of God ever spoke to you at night? Oh, the rest of you better wake up and start living. You're sleeping too much. Half the things I preach to you, I get them at night. I know the Lord works in the daytime, but he sure does keep you up at night. It was revealed to him in a vision, and Daniel blessed the God of heaven. He knew he had the right source, you see. Verse 20, Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his, and changeth the times and the seasons, he removeth kings. Hey, he was talking about that one. He changeth the times and the seasons. He giveth wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and the secret things. That's the way to praise God. Isn't that great? Tell God who he is. And if you can't say it in words, read somebody else's. Read Daniel's. He can tell you. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and light dwelleth in him. I thank thee and praise thee, O thou God of my fathers. Hey, that's good. How many glad you've had a good father, or a good mother, or a good grandpa, and a good grandma, and a good aunt, and a good uncle back there? How many glad you had something like that? They're the greatest heritage any human being ever had. Some maybe have to go back a number of generations, but anyway, keep on going back till you find one. O God of my fathers, who hath given me wisdom and might. Hey, look at that guy. Look what he said. Could you say that? Face it like that? That man knew what he was talking about, you know. Let me read verse 23 again. He says, I thank thee and praise thee, O thou God of my fathers, who hath given me wisdom and might, and hath made known unto me now what we desired of thee. For thou hast now made known unto us the king's matter. Therefore Daniel went unto Arioch. He was the foreign minister or the five-star general, one or the other, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said unto him thus, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon, bring me in before the king, and I will show the king the interpretation. So Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste. And you better underline the word haste there. He was about to lose his head too, is what I mean. Yeah, if he hadn't killed those wise men, they'd cut off his head. And they were going to have a head-cutting time around there. Isn't the devil a mean devil? You know, you can serve him, then he'll kill you. He didn't have any mercy on you. And then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste and said to him, I have found a man. Say, that'd be a sermon for you, wouldn't it? I have found a man, and he is a man of the captives of Judah, that will make known unto the king the interpretation. Now, you know those wise men, maybe you hadn't realized it, but they weren't just Babylonians. They were from all over the world. Every empire, every country that he overran, he picked out the princes and those with high IQs and brought them over there, and they were serving under him to become the leaders of Babylon, you see. And Daniel and his three friends were brought in there in the same way. As we were teaching you last Sundays, the great men of Israel, they were princes, and they could learn languages, they had an understanding of many parts of science. And so when we talk about these wise men, they were talking about the intelligentsia of the world. Not just like you went into Washington, started killing off all the wise men, and you'd find them from all over the world banked in there. And so that's what he was doing here. Verse 26, the king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar. That the king gave him that name. Are you able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen and the interpretation? Daniel, now I want you to show how to answer the devil. And if you do business this way, fellows, you'll get along a lot better. You know, some of you get a wee little idea and you start about my idea. Well, you rascal, you know God gave it to you. It wasn't your brain at all. And you got to keep the thing straight. Now notice how Daniel answers here in verse 27. Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret which the king hath demanded, cannot the wise men, astrologers, magicians, soothsayers show unto the king? Hey, he mocked them. He mocked that devil's bunch, you see. The devil's bunch can't do much, and you better believe it. They can go a little ways, and then they are dead still. They can't go any further. Look at verse 28, maybe one of the greatest of the whole verses. Verse 28, but I got a circle around mine right there. Maybe you ought to put a circle too, because there you get to the changing of the times. But there is a God in heaven. Let's give him a hand right now. Glory be to God forever. Hallelujah. There is a God in heaven. What does he do? He reveals secrets. You still here? You think he's changed? Is he the same God? Live on the ball then. And maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Underline latter days. Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. Man, that's positive, isn't it? No, saying I think so, I hope so. He said, now this is it. I don't mean maybe, this is it. The king demanded the wise men of Babylon to make known the dream. They could not meet his demand. The decree went forth that they should all die. Daniel wanted time. He went and he prayed. God gave him an interpretation of it, and it began to work. And verse 28 says, there is a God in heaven that reveals secrets. He maketh known the king what shall be in the latter days. Okay, let's go to verse 29 then. As for you, O king, your thoughts that came into your mind upon your bed, what should come to pass hereafter? And he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. That old king woke up right there. He was hearing the strongest words he had ever heard in his life. That's verse 29. Verse 30. But as for me, now if you don't have a Bible of your own, we got free Bibles in there. Just take them out and read them. We're still in the second chapter of Daniel, you know. We're at verse 30. But as for me, now this is great. This secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living. Isn't that beautiful? And that's humility. But for their sakes that thou shalt make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest. Man, that king was shaking, trembling. His face was turned. He was standing before a man greater than he was, and he knew it. The king didn't have any answers. This man did. He was standing before the man that's got the answers. And when you stand before a man that's got the answers, it's just different from other men. He says, King, you saw a great image. This great image whose brightness. Now, I want you to know something about the world empires. Number one, great image. The empires of the world have been great. Brightness. The empires of the world have been bright. The great Babylonian Empire, the Persian Empire, the Grecian Empire, the Roman Empire, they have been great. Brightness. The brightness was excellent, and it stood before thee. And the form thereof was terrible. Now you ought to read that one. World empires have done nothing but kill. Just kill. They have killed by the millions in order just to boss somebody else. In order just to put somebody else under. In order to make somebody else be a slave. Multiplied millions of human beings when any one of them is worth the whole earth on which we dwell. They're immortal souls. Can you say amen? Verse 32, this image's head was of fine gold, the breast and arms of silver, belly and thighs of brass, legs of iron, feet, part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest, verse 34, till that stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet. You ought to have to notice everything. When you get to verse 34, you come, the stone is the Lord Jesus Christ. That's going to destroy all the empires of the world that have ever been. Verse 34, thou sawest till a stone was cut out without hands. That means he wasn't born naturally. He didn't come to this earth as a natural man. No human hand brought him here. He was conceived of the Holy Spirit. And there was nothing about him that would make you think he was a mighty one of God. He was cut without human hands. He smote the image. Now he is going to smite the image. Now look at it real careful. I hope you got your own Bible with you. He smote the image upon his feet. He did not hit the image in the head. You say, why on the feet? Well, that's where the story will be when he comes back. The story will be in the feet. So don't hit something that's not there. Hit what is there. And there, where the iron and the clay was. The iron is the dictatorship of communism. The clay is the manipulations of democracy on the face of the earth, squirming this way and that way and changing itself every day. Then was the iron and the clay. Now notice this is tremendous. The iron and the clay and the brass and the silver and the gold. We have got all of those empires with us today in their spiritual essence. You see, you've got all of the spiritism of Babylon with us today. You've got all the licentiousness of Persia with us today. Persia was steeped in immoralities of the deepest kind. You've got all of the intellectualism of Greece with us today. Smart alecks think they know something when they don't know much. You've got all of the democracies of Rome trying to run the world this way and that way and the other way, setting up something here and setting up something there. You have the whole thing living at this moment on the face of this earth. So he says, then was the iron and the clay, communism and democracy. The brass, you come on up into the Grecian Empire, and the silver into the Persian Empire, and the gold into the Babylonian Empire. It was all, not read the word of God, broken to pieces together. Say together. Well, if they're broken together, then they're not broken separately. Then they are still here. The evils of all the empires. No wonder it's so hard to live for God today. You've got the evils of all of the world sins hiding around us today, fighting us, and we need to rebuke the devil. Can you say amen? And they shall become like chaff on the summer's threshing floor. They're going to be gone forever. and the wind carried them away. There was found no place for them. Brother, you better believe it. That's the reason, love not the world or things of the world, but love God with all your heart. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain. That's Jesus. And he filled the whole earth. I think that's great. I think that is great. Just tremendous. This is the dream, and we will tell you the interpretation to the king. And you, O king, are a king of kings, for God of heaven hath given you a kingdom and power and strength and glory, and wheresoever the children of men dwell. Now, I told you it was worldwide. Wherever the children of men dwell, or even where there are any beasts of the field, and where there are any fowls of the heaven, hath given it into your hand. Now, buddy, that's all of it. Wherever there's a human, wherever there's a beast, and wherever there's a bird, he was king there. Under your hand to make you ruler over them. Thou art the head of gold. After you will be an inferior kingdom. It's verse 39. An inferior kingdom. And every one of these kingdoms were inferior, one after the other, until there came the glorious one of the Lord Jesus Christ. And he is about ready to come back again. And not many people know much about it, and not many people are ready for it. I urge you today to get ready for the stone to come out of yonder's mountain somewhere and smite all the wickedness that the devil has contrived in the earth and destroy it. It should be gone like wheat on a summer's threshing floor, blown away. And then the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the Lord Jesus, shall rule forever.